英語学習に重要なのは、品質のフレーズを丸暗記することです。それにより、本当に重要な単語にだけ集中できます。この動画は、基礎練トレーニング。
It turns out that he was telling the truth. It turns out that he was telling the truth.
It turns out that he was telling the truth.
It turns out that the meeting was cancelled. It turns out that the meeting was cancelled.
It turns out that the meeting was cancelled.
It turns out that I had the wrong address. It turns out that I had the wrong address.
It turns out that I had the wrong address.
It turns out that she is my manager's sister. It turns out that she is my manager's sister.
It turns out that she is my manager's sister.
It turns out that the rain won't stop until tonight. It turns out that the rain won't stop until tonight.
It turns out that the rain won't stop until tonight.
It turns out that we need more budget for the project. It turns out that we need more budget for the project.
It turns out that we need more budget for the project.
It turns out that there was a bug in the software. It turns out that there was a bug in the software.
It turns out that there was a bug in the software.
It turns out that I forgot my keys at home. It turns out that I forgot my keys at home.
It turns out that I forgot my keys at home.
It turns out that we made the right choice. It turns out that we made the right choice.
It turns out that we made the right choice.
It turns out that the item is currently out of stock. It turns out that the item is currently out of stock.
It turns out that the item is currently out of stock.
It turns out that the flight was delayed by 2 hours. It turns out that the flight was delayed by 2 hours.
It turns out that the flight was delayed by 2 hours.
It turns out that the document was a fake. It turns out that the document was a fake.
It turns out that the document was a fake.
It turns out that the restaurant is closed on Mondays. It turns out that the restaurant is closed on Mondays.
It turns out that the restaurant is closed on Mondays.
It turns out that I'm allergic to cats. It turns out that I'm allergic to cats.
It turns out that I'm allergic to cats.
It turns out that he had already finished the task. It turns out that he had already finished the task.
It turns out that he had already finished the task.
It turns out that the problem was simpler than we thought. It turns out that the problem was simpler than we thought.
It turns out that the problem was simpler than we thought.
It turns out that we were going in the wrong direction. It turns out that we were going in the wrong direction.
It turns out that we were going in the wrong direction.
It turns out that there was a misunderstanding between us. It turns out that there was a misunderstanding between us.
It turns out that there was a misunderstanding between us.
It turns out that things are going to be fine. It turns out that things are going to be fine.
It turns out that things are going to be fine.
It turns out that no one knew the answer. It turns out that no one knew the answer.
It turns out that no one knew the answer.
It turns out that the schedule has changed again. It turns out that the schedule has changed again.
It turns out that the schedule has changed again.
It turns out that this is a common issue. It turns out that this is a common issue.
It turns out that this is a common issue.
It turns out that I didn't have enough cash on me. It turns out that I didn't have enough cash on me.
It turns out that I didn't have enough cash on me.
It turns out that this color is better for the living room. It turns out that this color is better for the living room.
It turns out that this color is better for the living room.
It turns out that all our efforts paid off. It turns out that all our efforts paid off.
It turns out that all our efforts paid off.
It turns out that we have a mutual friend. It turns out that we have a mutual friend.
It turns out that we have a mutual friend.
It turns out that I was wrong all along. It turns out that I was wrong all along.
It turns out that I was wrong all along.
It turns out that the noise was just the wind. It turns out that the noise was just the wind.
It turns out that the noise was just the wind.
It turns out that the rumor was true. It turns out that the rumor was true.
It turns out that the rumor was true.
It turns out that he is my distant cousin. It turns out that he is my distant cousin.
It turns out that he is my distant cousin.
It turns out that the trip was more expensive than expected. It turns out that the trip was more expensive than expected.
It turns out that the trip was more expensive than expected.
It turns out that she is a famous singer. It turns out that she is a famous singer.
It turns out that she is a famous singer.
It turns out that the test was easier than I thought. It turns out that the test was easier than I thought.
It turns out that the test was easier than I thought.
It turns out that the answer was simple. It turns out that the answer was simple.
It turns out that the answer was simple.
It turns out that we had the wrong address. It turns out that we had the wrong address.
It turns out that we had the wrong address.
It turns out that he wasn't seriously injured. It turns out that he wasn't seriously injured.
It turns out that he wasn't seriously injured.
It turns out that there's a shortcut to the station. It turns out that there's a shortcut to the station.
It turns out that there's a shortcut to the station.
It turns out that the meeting is cancelled. It turns out that the meeting is cancelled.
It turns out that the meeting is cancelled.
It turns out that he is the new manager. It turns out that he is the new manager.
It turns out that he is the new manager.
It turns out that my keys were in my pocket the whole time. It turns out that my keys were in my pocket the whole time.
It turns out that my keys were in my pocket the whole time.
今日もお疲れ様でした。一区切りついたら、温かい一杯を。